Honorable Vishwanath, it's a pleasure to see you again, and particularly for you to chair this seminar for us, particularly since I know how busy you are and you were going to be traveling up and down. In fact, we had to change the dates 2 or 3 times by just a day or two, just so that he could attend. And we are very grateful that you not only come, but your knowledge about the subject is something that we all look forward to. And I'm sure that will go. Other flag officers, senior people, it is a real pleasure to be here. I, as a person to talk on this subject, have very little knowledge, particularly of the merchant navy and the ports. And since the Indian Navy is going to be covered by a lot of people, I would only pass through my slides and mention to you that these are the main topics that we need to discuss. The one point that I do want to mention before we start is the importance of the Indian Ocean. I know there was a talk about 20 years ago of changing the name from Indian Ocean to something else because they didn't like the idea of an ocean being named after a country. Fortunately, that did not happen. But the Indian Ocean to India, I can't think of a more active requirement and the necessity for something so important. We, I think, as you will see from one of the slides, control the entire traffic that is in the ocean. And besides controlling this traffic, we are at the center of 37 nations. And it has been our endeavor, despite our fights with some of our neighbors, which keep happening every now and then, to ensure that all these countries are our friends. And wherever we can help them in whichever way, we've gone out of the way to help them. With these words, I will just go through my slides because there's not much that I will say, but wherever there is a need for me to talk about the slides, I will do so. Sorry, which one is the this has already been covered, and who all are speaking, so I will not spend time on these 3 slides because they are the experts and they would be talking about these 3 slides. This is the slide that I spoke about and which is very important. As you can see, the Indian Ocean and the amount of traffic that passes next to India, other than the odd bit of traffic which goes, I can't get through the pointer. I'm sorry, I haven't quite understood. Which one? Pointer.
Pointer.
Just go back. Acha. As you will see, and if you look at the traffic and look at south of India, I don't think you will get this kind of traffic anywhere in the world. And this is an open sea. Unlike a lot of canals where you have a lot of traffic, the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, and other canals, and now they're talking about a Kra Canal coming up here, which is not yet there. But the amount of traffic that passes through here is tremendous. Also, one other very important factor is that the depth of water here is so much that any type of ship can pass through. And warships pass through from all countries just next to us, and if they are within 12 miles away from our coast, we can just say hello to them. And once in a while we track our enemy warships, as we would call them, enemies, but the rest of the time they are free to do whatever they want. They can just close the coast, carry out anything close to our coast, and by the time you really know what's happening, you would have disappeared. This has been covered in detail, but we've got 7,500 miles of coastline. And if you look at the number of islands which are there miles away from us, it makes our task very difficult. As you are aware, there was a time when even the Andaman and Nicobar Islands were under dispute as to whether they actually belong to India or not. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And with the Lakshadweep and the islands, we have practically everything. And as I've already mentioned, the Indian Ocean is the busiest ocean in the world. This is again a very small slide to give you an indication of the major ports that we have in India. 12 of them, and they're all very good. This gives the expansion of cargo which is being planned. At the moment, as I will come to the next slide and show you, we have very little cargo passing through our ports. But if you look at the kind of amount of cargo passing through today, it is very little. And as the next slide, one of the slides will show you, India does not even have 1% of the cargo on Indian ships. All our cargo is sent by others, and in times of our need, it will be very difficult for us to control that. I'll just cover the key strategies. I think one of the most important things that has happened is the decision by India to improve our security and growth, particularly at sea. The Prime Minister has taken a very big step in this and put forward a paper which will enunciate our vision and our geopolitical framework for maritime cooperation in the Indian Ocean. I think this is a very important aspect that has come about. We are talking about having this getting ready soon, and as also in our 100th year of our independence, getting other things ready. I don't think we will achieve that fully, but at least even if we achieve 80%, I think we would have done a very good job. The other important factor is our ability, particularly with AI coming in a big way, is our ability to harness technology, for which we are slowly setting up these stations all along the coast, so that whenever we need to talk to ships, these days talking to ships, earlier on you could, as a naval officer, you could listen on to the RT and intercept your enemies talking to each other. Today with AI and with the methods of technology, none of that is possible. So you are in a sense blind, and you have to rely on other means by which to do this. Some of the measures that have been planned out in the new MIT is that 80% of maritime accidents are happening due to human errors. How can we reduce them? And although India has over 10% of the seafarers, at the moment we do not have very many Indian ships. Fortunately for us, that is a change that is going to happen very, very soon. And from just today, I think we have just 1% of the complete traffic on our ships, whereas we have over 10% of manpower supplied all over. So this is something that is important for us to go through. Also, as some of you from the Merchant Navy will know, your hours and fatigue that you suffer is immortal. I've known of people at one day's notice having to travel to Singapore and board another ship because that captain was not available. And He had just come back from sea not even 10 days ago, and he was out again for another 6 months. So this was quite a strain on the family, because the children never got to see him, his family never got to see him, and those days with communication being what it was, they couldn't talk unless he went into harbor and tried to make a phone call. This Marpol convention which I talked about, these are some of the intentions that they want to do. Stricter penalties for non-compliance, safety audits, and incentives for safety practices. Some of the aspects which are going to be covered in this are the oil spill that happened in India, which happens quite twice or thrice, and the management of our ecosystem. One of the major factors is the management of our ecosystem, because a lot of ships are just dumping their waste, oil, waste, gases into us, and that is something that is not there. And of course, the last one is equally important, the safety of our environment, which is getting damaged very badly. As you are aware of what's happening these days, particularly in Delhi, where the fog and the clouds are so much that you can't really even see your next door neighbor's house. This is just the formation of the rim, which together we are looking at how we can make sure that the Indian Ocean is kept in touch. I've marked some of the countries here, but as I mentioned, there are 37 countries in all, and in the previous slide I'd shown you what are the areas of concern. These are just a slide. Some of the key developments that the IMF has come up with are listed here. Basically, all these are known, but propulsion and steering, fire safety of container ships, charging of electrical vehicles, safe return to port, and planes sailing for autonomous ships. Here is another slide which shows you the culture of safety that is being introduced in the new project. The first is most important. If a person does not know anything, it's not his problem, it's somebody else's problem, the lowest one. Because he says, as long as I know my job, to hell with the rest. And that is something that one is taught in life as soon as you join, that a ship is not an individual. It is a multi-person organization, and unless each person is on the same page, you will never progress. Similarly, the other points also relate to the same thing, that it is not really I who have to do the job. And being proactive, the point 4, is very, very important. And being generative is now becoming more important because of the science and technology that is coming in. These are some of the safety principles. I won't go through them, but I'll keep the slide on for just 10 seconds. You can read through them of how we can improve the safety of the various people. The last is the most important. Strengthen your organization, and that can only come from the top. No one down the line can work on this. It has to be from the top to make sure that the organization is what it should be. This was a slide I spoke of earlier. At the moment, our current share is 1% of the, and the number of ships that we have is hardly anything. Our aim is to change this 4-point-odd lakhs to 50 lakhs in the next 10 years. How we will do this is something that the others will talk, but I will briefly touch on that later. And the number of inland waterways of which we hardly use any. And that's actually the best method of trade within the country. 110, but I don't think any of them are deep enough or good enough to have traffic. Even the Ganga and the Jamna rivers together, which could take a lot of traffic from the ports into top places, is not available into our industrial areas. These are some of the initiatives which are being introduced now in this proposal, and for this the shipping ministry has been enhanced. In fact, 3/4 of the time the Prime Minister himself is present at these meetings so that he can tell the shipping minister what to do and how to do it. And I think these are some of the really great essentials, and how we can make sure that foreign berthing and traffic of foreign ships is enhanced so that India becomes capable of handling these. I know that recently I've read, and particularly last night people told me that the amount of work that is going on in ports, and particularly for shipbuilding, is tremendous. They've all said that by 2047 we will have achieved all, but making a harbor and making a ship is not something that happens overnight. It takes a long time to make sure that the harbor is not only deep enough, but it has berths, it is capable of handling ships, and more so, once the baggage is offloaded, there has to be a system of rail and road connections so that it goes to where it is required. There's no point in dumping it there in the odd port which has no connectivity and leaving it there. The last slide is that we in the Indian Ocean and the Navy have started doing a lot of exercises with foreign navies, and this is something that we must follow and make sure that all the navies are friendly to us. The recent exercise which happened just I think last week has proved this point of how important it is for all, at least our neighboring places, and even China and USA joining in and Britain joining in to make sure that our maritime industry stays strong. Another thing that has come about, and I think is very important, is the Information Fusion Center, which I think the Coast Guard will give a lot more inputs on this, have started, and this is what it is. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Admiral Pastricha, for that overview of India's maritime landscape, as well as some of the strategies which you have mentioned to enhance our maritime safety. May I request the President IMF to kindly present a small book memento to the Admiral.